Now.
Now I need to go to my camera and make sure that that is there.
Get your computer up and we're ready.
I didn't realize that. Thanks, Danae.
Yep.
Okay, so you're going to pause it when it's time?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and pause it at break time.
All right, I'll go back to shut you off.
We should be good. Okay, I think we're good to go. So we shall begin. We're going to, if you remember the other day, it may not be on their end though. Let's just make sure, but it may not be on their end. Nope, should be. So we should be okay. Okay. Last time when we left, we were dealing with the tools menu. We were inside of the tools menu. Sure, now it figures my computer's going to give me grief after all that. And we were looking at Bible study tools. And basically in the tools menu, we found that this is where you can run a passage guide or an exegetical guide or a Bible word study guide. And I mentioned that we were going to start looking at the Bible word study guides, and we're going to do that. But I also want to take some time to start to maybe put some of these puzzle pieces together. One of the problems that I have in here is that I'm trying to show you a lot of tools and a lot of capabilities. But outside of the context of actually using them to accomplish something, it's difficult sometimes for you to grasp why the tools work, how they work, and what you would use them for. And so today I want to spend some time actually applying what we've been talking about in exegesis class with keywords and that kind of thing, and actually applying it to some Bible study so that you can see how these tools can be leveraged in order to help you accomplish what Denny has been telling you you need to be doing in exegesis class. So in the process of doing this, there are a couple of hazards. One is we have to start dealing with Greek. Sorry, that's just going to be the way it is. I know that many of you are just in Greek 1. You're just beginning to get a handle on some of your vocabulary. I really don't have a choice. You're going to have to jump in at least to some degree on Greek, and I'm going to show you ways to make that easier. The other issue that has to come up as well is that we're going to start doing some searches, and I'm going to start you in a search that is one of the more complicated searches. We're going to start doing some Greek morphological searches. And that seems backwards since there are so many others. We should start with basic searching. But in order to do what I want to do today, we need to jump in a little deeper. So we're going to go slowly. But I need you to say, hello, I'm not where you are, okay? We're going to go step by step through this stuff. It's going to be repetitive in some standpoints, and that's a good thing because it'll get you in the habit of doing these things over and over again. But I want to show you how to start using the steps that Denny has talked about. When we started talking about doing New Testament exegesis, what was the first step? I know it's been an hour. Think in terms of entire books, right? So I can't, the software really can't help you do that. There are sources within the software that will help you get the background of the book, talk about the time frame and all that kind of stuff, and you should do all that. We're not going to mess with that right now. But the second step was what? Okay. Start to look for keywords and phrases. Well, how do you do that? I mean, it's one thing for Denny to say, phronane is a keyword in Philippians. Just take my word on that. And typically what happens is I see usually at least one student raise their hand and say, could you tell us what the keywords are for all the other books? that's certainly the easy way to do that, isn't it? If somebody would just tell me what all the keywords are, I don't have to do all this extra work. The problem is that when you discover them on your own, they stick a little bit more. Now, there are books out there. There's a book that Denny showed this morning on his PowerPoint called the Word Study Concordance, which is actually a very good book. Basically, it's a lot of Logos reports put together in about a 700-page book. You have all the capability to do everything that's in that book in your software. They've just decided to make a print version of it. But how do we go about, what's the first thing that we would do if we wanted to start to look at keywords in a book? Todd, where would you start?
Say the question again.
How would you start to look? We're going to look at the book of Galatians. So what's the first thing you would do to start to look at keywords or to try to find keywords in the book of Galatians?
I need to go to the vocabulary list.
Right. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is run a vocabulary list. There are a number of ways you can do it. You can go up to the File menu and do New, or you can go to the icon that's on your icon bar and select New Vocabulary List. So let's everybody run a vocabulary list on the book of Galatians. So the properties come up. Make sure the language is selected at Greek. Click the Add button and add a Bible passage. Make sure you all choose the UBS 4 Greek New Testament for your Bible. And just type in the word Galatians. GAL will work as well. And go ahead and run the report. And you should have a list of keywords for Galatians. Now I'm actually, well, no, it won't. I'll go ahead and do it from here. It's hard to see mine, is it not? I'm going to zoom mine a little bit so that it's a little easier to see. The Greek is still going to be hard to see, but you can see some of it pretty well. Okay, so I have a vocabulary list. How do I sort it according to word frequency? Doug?
Right-click on Galatians.
Right. Right-click on the word Galatians. Sort by frequency descending. So Levi, what's one of the first possible keywords that you see in the book of Galatians?
Ego or I.
Okay, I am. Ego, I. The expression I. Typically, those kinds of pronouns I don't usually see as keywords. They could be, but I tend to skip those kinds of words. Scan down a little bit further. What else do you see? Okay, Christos, right? Christ. 38 times in this size book. That could be possible. Now, I'm going to show you a trick that we're going to start manipulating these lists to make this more helpful. And this is something I've just discovered. I just figured this out yesterday. I'm really, really excited about this. Everybody's going to say, it's not a big deal, but I think it is. When you're using computer files and you're naming computer files and you look inside a folder and that folder is listed alphabetically, how do you make sure that a file name comes all the way to the top? Can anybody tell me a trick that you can use to make sure that that file name is listed first? Eli? Okay, putting a number or a space before the file name. Was somebody going to say something else? Anytime you put a character in front of a file name, it automatically brings it up prior to A in the alphabet. Okay? So what I want to do here is I want to start to mark these keywords so that they'll float to the top of this list. And that way, when I save this list, when I close this report, when I come back, it's going to bring those words to the top of the list all the time, and I don't have to go digging for them as much. So with Christos selected, you'll notice in the top in your menu bar, next to the Add button, there's a little, it looks like a line with a pencil, and it says Edit Vocabulary Entry. Click once on that. And in the dialog box that says Display Form, I want you to put your cursor before the first letter of Christos, and I want you to put an asterisk and a space. Now, this is my convention. Later on, you can do whatever you want, but for right now, I want you to do it my way so that if I need to try to help you, we can figure out what's wrong. don't put anything in the box that's marked word. Don't change frequency and don't change gloss. You just want to put a little asterisk and a space in front of the word Christos and say okay.
Asterisk, what is that?
It's the one that's on top of the 8. It's a little star,
Oh, that's it.
little asterisk.
And space? Asterisk.
Yeah. Now you'll notice that it has marked Christos now in the list with that little asterisk. So that's good. Scroll down a little further. What else do you see? Levi, what's the next one that you would maybe mark as a keyword?
Well, God is 31 times.
Okay, before we get to God, there's one just before it that's important, and that's nomos. And I realize you can't read the Greek necessarily, but that's the word for law. You'll notice it's right above theos. So I would mark theos, or nomos as well. So go ahead and edit it. And just put an asterisk and a space. Now, I'm going to show you with theos, you can actually do that right from the word, but sometimes it's a little tricky and it doesn't want to cooperate. With theos, if you click on it once and then try to click right in front of the word theos, sometimes you have to click a couple of times, but it'll put an insertion point. If you can get it to do that without going to the edit vocab list, you can just type straight into it. So just hit an asterisk and a space for theos. If it's temperamental, sometimes it's easier just to go up to that edit vocabulary entry, but you can mark it all that way. So we've marked Christos, we've marked nomos, we've marked theos. Scroll down a little bit more. What do you see? Larry, give me the next one that you see that might be a potential keyword in Galatians.
Okay. But no, that would be plus.
Yeah, that's just a conjunction.
I see. Maybe. Is it self? How do you say it? On top.
Okay, that's just he, she, or it. Those are going to be pronouns.
Next
So,
one, demons.
well, it's demonstrative pronoun. Yeah, it's not the word. And I'm glad you did that, Larry. Everybody's going to tease you about that now, but it's demons. Period. And at first glance, it looks like that word is demons. It's not. It's just a demonstrative pronoun.
Want to illustrate that for me?
Yeah. So
Thank you.
Bring that up.
go 2 more words down, and you're going to find one. Yeah, faith. 22 times faith occurs. So go ahead and edit it and put an asterisk in front of it in a space. It's pistis is the Greek word. What do you see down from there, Terry? Give me a key word. Spirit. Pneuma is the Greek word, so go ahead and put an asterisk in front of that.
Will this save for other searches and other books?
It will save it on this list. I'm going to show you that. But now, once we save this, we can use it for searching. It's going to be a powerful way to do that. The word pneuma can be translated wind or breath or spirit, is why it's saying that. Okay, keep going down the list. Whitney, give me a keyword.
I was still from Larry. What did Perry just say?
I don't know. I don't ever listen to Perry. No, I missed it.
Okay, it's flesh
Yeah.
then. A feature
Yeah,
of spirit.
yeah. Flesh would be the next one. Sarx.
Matches the next one?
It's right after pneuma. Because they both occur 18 times. Manny, give me a keyword. Okay, Jesus. Now, I'll be honest with you, and Denny kind of explained this. There are 3 or 4 words that you think most of the time are going to be keywords from frequency standpoint. Theos, God, Christos, Lord, and Jesus. Those 10 in most books to be frequently occurring words, but since we're just going to explore this list, go ahead and mark it. I mean, at this point, you're trying to discover what the keywords are. We don't know, right? I mean, we're just going through this list. So mark the ones that you think might be, and we can deal with those then. Okay? Brett, give me a keyword.
It's like the next one would be man.
Yeah, I think so. Anthropos, 14 times, so that could be significant. Miles? Son. Huios? We're marking a lot of words here, right? That's a good thing.
Wouldn't all be one too? Yeah.
The problem is all is kind of one of those words where it can be so common that it might not be, but go ahead and mark it. It's not going to hurt anything at this stage of the game to mark it. So mark all and every. I tend to look for bigger words. My first pass through, I look for nouns mostly. Man, flesh, spirit, faith, those kinds of words. Then I'll go back through and look for some of the smaller words like all or every or that kind of stuff. But I tend to look for nouns first, and then significant verbs, obviously, as well. I don't want to bypass significant verbs. Okay? JR, what do you see next?
Adelphos.
Okay, Adelphos, a little further down, brother.
What about above that?
Yeah, I think there is one above that I would at least mark at this point. Which one?
Prone. You see that, Larry?
The one that I would mark is not this. It's not autos. It's ginomai.
I just want to make that
Yeah. To come into being, or to happen, or to become. I would certainly check that one and just see. And then there's one more that I want to mark before we start playing, and that would be evangelia. Evangelia. Okay. So I would mark a summons or promise. Okay, now, once you have those marked, this is one of the cool things. Scroll up to the top of the list and resort this list alphabetically. All of your keywords are now at the top. So the neat part is when you look at this list alphabetically, you can group all your keywords together. But now go back and resort it by word, by frequency descending. They're back in frequency order. So you have the best of both worlds. You don't pull them out of their context as far as where they rank, as far as the number of occurrences. But when you want to just look at your keywords, you can resort this list by alphabetically, and all your keywords will come to the top. See how that worked? Okay, I want you to go ahead and close this report for right now because I want to save it. Since you've marked these, I want to make sure that we don't have any problems. Just go ahead and X out of this window, and it's going to ask you if you want to name this document. So name it Galatians vocab or whatever you need to remember it. And go ahead and save it. Now, I also want you to close any other windows that you have in Libronics. Just go up under your window menu and say close all windows. Control-Shift-W will do it as well. I just want you to open your ESV reverse interlinear. So close all the windows, hit your Control-L to open your library, type in ESV and find your ESV Greek reverse interlinear New Testament and open it.
English, Greek, or just Greek?
There's only one. open your ESV reverse interlinear. I just typed ESV, and it came right to it. Now, I've talked a little bit about the ESV. Actually, I've talked a lot about the ESV. What is one of the most significant features of the ESV? Roger, can you tell me? What is the most significant feature of this reverse interlinear, the ESV reverse interlinear? What makes it such a good resource to use? It has both the English and Greek. It's that bridge that we've been looking for that allows us to do Greek studies and English studies from the same resource. Most all of the other ones have some limitation. They maybe have great English tools and some limited Greek tools, or they have great Greek tools and limited English tools. The ESV reverse interlinear has them both. So it is our bridge between these two languages. Now, go ahead now and open your Galatians keyword list. So you can, from the icon menu, you can go to the open icon, and it's about halfway through your list. There's a little arrow next to it. You can see on screen the little black arrow that I'm pointing at. Scroll down to vocabulary list, and then find your Galatians vocab list and go ahead and open it. What should happen is they should open up side by side like they have on my machine, and that's what we actually want. Now, since we're going to be studying Galatians, if they don't open up side by side, go ahead and do Windows tile vertically, and they should end up side by side. I prefer my vocab list on the left and my Greek text or my Bible on the right, but you can do it either way you want. So is everybody where I am? Their screen looks like mine?
How did you open Galatians? You went to...
I just went to go ahead and do File, Open, and then select Vocabulary List, and it should be whatever you named it, and click on it and say OK, and it should open. Did you get it?
Yes.
Okay. So you've got a vocab list, and you've got your Bible. Now go ahead and sort your vocab list by alphabetically, because we want to look at these potential keywords. Now we're going to get into some tougher stuff, okay? And so we got to go slow, and you got to follow the steps. What I want to do is, I know that I've got these potential keywords, but I have to figure out where they are in the text, right? I mean, it doesn't do me any good to know that adelphos is my first possible keyword. I know it occurs 11 times, but where does it actually show up in the book of Galatians? That's my challenge. Now, let's go ahead and put our ESV to Galatians 1:1 so that we're at least in the right ballpark. Because if I do this right, I should see some results in my ESV. But if I'm looking at Matthew and I'm doing keywords in Galatians, you're not going to notice it. So make sure that your ESV is at Galatians 1:1. Now, here's the tricky part. I want you to right-click on the word adelphos in your vocabulary list. You'll notice that you have a pop-up menu from your right mouse clicking. The first thing is copy, then display information, and then selected text adelphos. I need you to choose selected text adelphos, and then you'll have another pop-up window that'll open, and about the fourth one down says copy. Does everybody see where I am? Now, before I click on anything to actually do the copying, I want to explain why I'm bypassing the first copy that we saw. It selects everything else on that line. So when I go to copy, I don't want to copy adelphos, parentheses 11, space a brother. That's not what I'm going to search for. So when you go to selected text, it's only going to select the word adelphos, which is what I want. But it means that you've got to do that extra step. Don't forget this part. Or when you go to paste it into your search, it's going to paste adelphos, parentheses 11, a brother, and your search isn't going to work. Okay, Manny?
I don't have an option.
You don't have what option?
Make sure the word is selected first.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you right-click on the word adelphos.
But I mean, make sure the word is included.
think he's downgrading it.
Now, you click on the selected text. Yeah.
Doesn't have that option on here either.
See how when I click the second time it's selected? It is delicate. It actually is a little weird. Sometimes it won't show you selected text. If you can see on my screen, and I apologize to the recording people that I'm not standing at my desk, but if you look right here, you'll notice that the word is selected. If it's only giving you copied, usually that word isn't highlighted. And so just click off of it and click onto it again and try it again. Sometimes it does exactly what Manny's did. So I need you to make sure that you're understanding the visual behavior you should be seeing. You want to get to that selected text. And then you want to just scroll down, selected text Adelphos, and select copy. Okay, big whoop. Nothing happened, right? All I did was I copied the word Adelphos in Greek to my computer's clipboard. It's hiding, waiting for me to do something. Okay? But it's important that I did it right, because if you notice with Adelphos, you have a breathing on the alpha, and you have an accent over the omicron at the end. And so if you wanted to try to just type Adelphos in, you have to type those breathings and those accent marks correctly as well. That gets to be a pain, especially with bigger words where you have accent marks and breathings over the same letter and trying to remember all those keywords. I want to cut and paste, personally. I'm not comfortable typing in Greek. I can do it if I have to, but it takes me 15 minutes, and by then I could have done this, okay? So we've copied the word Adelphos into our computer's memory. Now go up under Search at the top and select Greek Morphological Bible Search. Now don't let the name scare you. What is morphology? Eli?
Part of speech, the words?
Well, it's more than that. It's the form of the word. So it's whether it's a verb or a noun or a part of speech, or whether it's nominative or genitive, whether it's singular, plural, whether it's masculine, feminine. It's more than just a part of speech. So
Is there like a one-word synonym for morphology?
the form of the word is the best way to think of it. It's everything that encompasses the form of the word. Okay. Now, this is where we need to go slowly and carefully, because the steps of doing this are strange. Yes?
How did you remember that?
Under your search menu at the top, go Search, Greek Morphological Bible Search. And you see this very intimidating window. We're not going to deal with most of what's in this window, but we have to do it in a specific sequence to get it to work. The first thing I want to do is, before I lose what I've copied, I want to click in this box right over here that says Form. Do you see right underneath in the right-hand side, under where it says Add Search, it says Form. If I right-click with my mouse button in that box, it asks me if I want to paste. And I just say Paste. And it pasted Adelphos under Form. You'll also notice that a word list was generated, and it actually looked up words that relate to Adelphos or are similar to Adelphos in that word list underneath it. We're going to leave those alone for now. Now we need to go down and select a Bible. Well, what Bible do I want to search in? The ESV Reverse Interlinear. So go through your list. Now, if you have searched for it before, it's going to be one of the 2 or 3 at the top of that list. If not, you're going to have to scroll down, but make sure it's the ESV New Testament Reverse Interlinear. Is everybody finding it? Todd, are you with us?
I am.
Okay. Roger, are you with us? Okay. So we've pasted in Adelphos. We've selected our Bible. Now, under Range, I want to search in what book? Galatians. So type in G-A-L in the second box under Range, and it'll change the first box to say Special. Now, in that first box, it's a pull-down menu that has some pre-built ranges. For example, Bible, New Testament, Old Testament, historical writings, major prophets, minor prophets, Gospels. So if you want to search through just the Gospels, you can select that without typing it in. But you can also just put in any book under the range, and it will change it to special, and you're just going to search that book. Okay? Now that's important because there are a lot of other ways that you can execute searches, but this one allows you to confine the search to a specific book, or multiple books if that's what your choice is. But for our study, we're just trying to find Adelphos in Galatians, right? So type in Galatians under range. Now this is the weird part, and I wish it didn't work this way. Go up on the right-hand side column, up above the form box, it says Add to Search, and click that button. You'll notice now that you have a search term in the very top of the window. It's actually the word Adelphos in some brackets with a slash and an equal sign and stuff. Yes, Terry?
Arrange that line special and then Galatians.
Yeah, just type Galatians and it'll change the other one to special. You can just even type GAL. Now, I need to tell you, if you do that backwards, you have to start over. If you paste in Adelphos and then say Add to Search and then select your Bible, it will erase your search term and you have to start over. You have to select the Bible you want to search in and the range that you want to search before you hit that Add to Search button.
Since after we type in Galatians, the range becomes special.
Right.
Why did we bother?
What do you mean, why do we bother?
I mean, why did we have to choose the range?
Because we just want to search in the book of Galatians. I don't want to search the entire New Testament. I'm trying to limit my search to just the book of Galatians. Right now, all we're trying to do is find keywords in Galatians, right? We're studying through Galatians. So I don't really care where this word appears in Matthew. That's not going to help me. I just want to focus on Galatians. Does that make sense, Todd?
He was telling that when we type Galatians in there, it automatically changes to special.
Right.
So why do we bother? That's what he's telling.
Yes.
Why do you bother? Why do we bother to change that range to special?
We're not changing the range.
Yeah, you don't change the range to special. You just type in Galatians and it automatically changes it to say special. It's just not, Galatians isn't one of the pre-made search ranges. And that's why it says special. Okay? This will make sense after you do it maybe more times. Okay, so we now have a search term in the top of the box. Now, until we click that Add to Search, our search button at the bottom of the box was grayed out. It was telling you you don't have a valid term to search for yet. Okay? Now that we do, click Search. And I want you to notice two very, very important things. One is you now have a search results window for Adelphos. It tells you at the top of the search window. And you have every occurrence of the word Adelphos in Galatians. But in what language?
English.
Why is it English, Perry?
Because that's Greek.
Wait, we searched for a Greek word. Brett? Because it's the ESV reverse interlinear. This bridge that has been created is really, really powerful. And it's because you can search for Greek terms, but the results will be in English so that you can actually read them. If I were to search the UBS text or the NA27 text, which are Greek texts, my results window would be Greek sentences. Well, I can't read Greek that well. So I'm going to look at a bunch of Greek words, and I can't make heads or tails. It'll still highlight Adelphos for me, but I don't know what the words around it are. But now, since I'm searching through the ESV reverse interlinear, I searched for a Greek word, but I'm seeing English results. That is phenomenal, guys. You can't understand how much that is helpful. Denny is able to look at Adelphos in Galatians from his Greek text and count every occurrence of Adelphos. Well, first of all, it took him 3 days. But second of all, it's because he can read Greek. I can't read Greek. You can't read Greek. So this tool allows you to do the same kind of searches, but get English results. Really, really cool. Okay, this is an ooh-ah moment, even though you may not know it yet. Yes.
Like, for example, this morning with Proname,
We're-
it showed, what brother
only going to do Philippians today. We're going to do this. This is class today. We're going to do this all day because this becomes really powerful. Now, look in your search results window, and you'll notice that the word brothers is highlighted. In every verse, you should have some color highlight on the word brothers. It's basically telling you that's the words you were looking for. And if you look over in your ESV text, in verse 2, what's highlighted? Adelphos. So, when you do a search, it automatically highlights the word in your search results window, but it also highlights in the text that you searched, as long as you have it open. So, in this case, if you scroll down through your ESV text, just use your scroll arrows at the top and bottom, you'll see that every occurrence of the word brothers, adelphos, is highlighted in your ESV. That's way cool. Powerful feature.
How come the
Now,
color is different? Highlight color is different.
highlights color is different than what?
I mean, my color is blue, his is pink.
Everybody's color is going to be different. It's not going to matter. It depends on how many searches you've done and where you are in their color scheme. So you'll see that each search becomes a different color, which is going to be important. So go back to Galatians 1:1 after you scroll around a little bit. Now, all I want you to do is close your search results window. What disappeared?
The highlight.
The highlight in your ESV disappeared as well. So, I need you to think about this with me for a second and grasp what's going on. When you do a search, as long as the search results window is open, it's highlighted in the text. As soon as you close your search results window, it goes away. Okay? So, we don't want it to go away. Let's redo the morphological search for adelphos so that we can get it back. Now, it's still pasted into your computer's memory. You don't have to copy it into your clipboard again because you haven't copied and pasted anything else. So, adelphos is still in your computer's memory. Just go up under Search, Greek Morphological Search. Yeah, Terry?
I was going to say that on Rogers, when we paste it pastes the Greek word and the 11.
Right, because he didn't select. We just talked about all that. No, you're okay. You can't use this copy. You have to go down to where it says select text adelphos and use that copy. That just copies that one word. If you use the first copy, it's going to copy everything. Okay, so you're where I am. Let's go to Greek Morphological Bible Search. Paste the word into the form box.
Why couldn't we just put it into search, or what would happen if we did that?
Well, it won't find it because it's, for one thing, because it's not a proper search term. So you would have to know to put it in brackets, type the slash and hit equals. Okay, so paste it into form, select your Bible, don't forget to select the ESV. Now that we've done a search, the ESV New Testament Reverse Interlinear should be at the very top of that list. You shouldn't have to go digging for it anymore. Your range will probably still be Galatians, because that was the last search that you did. Go up in the right-hand column and say Add to Search. Your search button now becomes active, and say Search. And we're right back where we were. Now you'll notice that mine is a different color than it was the last time. It was kind of a peachy color the last time. Now it's kind of this blue-gray. Do you see what's happening? Every time you do a search, it changes the highlight color. Now that doesn't, it's not particularly important until you start marrying it with my next thought. Yes?
Say my ESV doesn't have the highlights in it. Right.
Well, then you didn't do the search correctly.
But the search results do have it.
No, then your ESV does. If you search the ESV. Well, no, see, you didn't search the ESV. You searched the NA27 Greek. Go ahead and close that. Go up under search, Greek morphological Bible search. Give it just a second. Paste. Select your Bible. Bible. Yeah, that's what you need to do. Scroll all the way up to the top. All the way up. No. There's the top. Select that. Now we're good. Now hit add to search. Now hit search. Yes. Did you interrupt the update? Well, I did. Could be why. That could be why. Yeah, unfortunately, that's gonna just be an error. Okay. Now, when I close my search results window, what happens to the highlights of brother? But I don't really want them to go away, do I? I want to be able to see them, right? I'm marking keywords at this point. So what are my choices? Okay, I can leave this search window open and do another search, right? As long as I don't close this window, my highlights will stay there. And as a matter of fact, I can minimize this window to get it out of my way, and the highlights will stay there because the window is still open. As long as this window is open in some form or another, that highlight will stay there in my ESV. So that's one choice. Larry, what other choice do I have?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know how you're going to do that, Mike.
Gary? No, we're not doing another search yet.
You can save.
No. Unfortunately, there is no way to save the search results. Now, I could put these verses in a verse list. You'll notice up under Other Tools, I could export the results to a verse list. But all that's going to do is give me a verse list. It's not going to highlight them in my ESV. Mike?
Take some time and maybe not think in this direction, but visual markup.
That's exactly where I'm thinking.
Highlight.
If you want to mark them permanently so that you don't have to keep doing these searches, you could just go up under your highlighter and you could select each one of these occurrences and mark them. Now I'm going to show you kind of a fast way to do that. Select your ESV as your window. Make sure that it's your active window. Click in it or click on the title bar. And does anybody remember this little third icon over here? It says Reference Target. What is that? Right. It makes that window your results window when you click on a reference. Okay? So go ahead and click on that reference target just once to make that your target reference window. Now, my first occurrence of Galatians, in Galatians of the keyword brother, occurs in Galatians 1:2. Well, I can see that, right? I mean, it's there on my screen. So just select it. Click and drag on the word brothers in your ESV, reverse interlinear, and go up to your highlighter pens in your menu. And I'm going to make brothers blue. Now, I just selected blue highlighter, but it doesn't show it to me. Don't let that bother you. The reason it doesn't show it is because it's still being highlighted by your search results window. So it's there. You won't see it until you close your search results window.
Right-click on the word?
You can right-click on it once, but you don't want that whole pop-up menu. You just want to select it. So you can click and drag to select the word is usually the easiest way. Kind of start at the beginning of the word and click and drag. And then go up under your icon menu, and you'll see a little A that looks like it's got a yellow box behind it. And if you click the little arrow next to it, you'll be able to get to all your visual markup palettes. The one that I want is just my highlighter pens. For right now, let's just everybody use highlighter pens. You have access to all of those visual markup styles that we talked about the other day. You can create your own. You can do anything you want. But for right now, let's just make it a blue highlighter. Now, I need to get to my next verse where brothers occurs. Brett, how am I going to do it?
On your list search results are on the left. All you have to do is click on the next.
Right, now because I made my ESV a target reference window, if I just go over to Galatians 1:1 or 1:11, which is my next one in my search results, and click on it once, my Bible jumps to Galatians 1:11. Now I can select that occurrence of brothers, and all I have to do now is just click on the A with the yellow background in my icon window. It's going to apply whatever highlight you used previously. I don't have to go through the menu anymore. You'll notice that blue is already selected. So if I just click on it once, it's highlighted. Okay? Now, I need to go to the next one, which is Galatians 1:19. And I need to select the word, and I need to mark it.
Is it Control K?
Yeah, Control K will also apply your last highlighter style if you want a keyboard shortcut.
I look at the blue, right?
Yeah, we want to mark, since it's the same word, we want to use the same highlight for the same word. Because we're going to change to a different color when we get to the next word. So go to Galatians 3:15, mark brothers, and I want you to go ahead and do this until you mark all of the ones in Galatians. 4:12, 4:28,
How do you remove markup again?
Control-Shift-K, select the same word and do Control-Shift-K. Or if you use that little arrow next to the yellow highlighted A in your icon menu, you have an erase visual markup command right up here at the top.
Yeah. Okay.
But Control-Shift-K is easier.
Am I still supposed to see it being highlighted?
You're not going to see the highlight pen. You're going to see the results from your search window.
I can see it just a little bit behind it.
Yeah, you might see just little bits of it. That's okay. Just go ahead and select each one of these and mark them.
Mike, does Control-Shift-K just take off your visual effect, or does it add to it?
No, Control-K adds one, Control-Shift-K erases it. Now, repetition is the way that you remember this. Todd, you have all these marked?
No, I'm lost.
You're lost. Well, then you need to say that you're lost so that I can unlose you. Where are you?
At the beginning.
Okay. Did you select your target reference?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So select the word brothers. Okay, not right click. You just want to select it with your left mouse. There you go. Now go up to this little. Okay, you double click. You just want to select it. Don't double click. Close those. You got to close all these windows. All right. Now that it's selected, go up under this little icon, the little arrow next to it. No. You gotta wait until I tell you where to go. Okay, guys, you just want to click on the visual palette. Visual palette. Go to highlighter pen. And select blue. Okay. You just marked that one blue. They can't see it, but you marked it. Okay. Now, did you mark this as your target reference window? Let's find out. Click on Galatians 1:11 over here.
Here it comes.
Okay, jump to the next one. Select that one. Just with your left mouse button, just drag, click and drag. Don't double click. Start at the beginning of the word. There you go. There you go. And just click. You don't need the arrow anymore. You can just click right on the A now. No. Right? Just click right on the A. Just click once. Yep. Well, I don't know. You keep moving back and forth. Click it. Okay.
He doesn't even know he did it before. I'm pretty excited because I think he's went that.
All you have to do now is click and drag to select the word, and then click right here on where it says A. See, it says Apply Visual Markup. Click once. Boom. Now go to your next one. Select it. Click and drag. Hit your X. Boom. And go through each one of those and mark. Somebody call the over here?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I did get but this one changed only. It's not.
Okay, just close the window. Go ahead and close that window. Control L to get to your library. Type in ESV. Yep. Go ahead and open that one.
Yeah, a little
Just
star.
click close.
I'm gonna develop.
Okay, now type Galatians 1:1.
I'm gonna say stuff like that. Jake looks good.
Yeah.
If you go to,
Upgrade.
you find it money. And then, click
Misspelled. You don't have to type all of that. You can just type GAL space 1 space 1 and hit your enter key. Okay. Now, what you did is you underlined it. Yeah. And you chose the underline style. That's fine. Whatever will mark it for you, that's okay. Just go through each one. Now you need to select the target reference. So we'll target there. Now click on your next verse. Jump. So find brothers and mark that one as well. You got to select it first. To select it. There you go. Now hit the A. There you go.
Oh, good. Oh, I know.
no way I don't have this.
Select 119.
Right.
Just click on it once. Find brother. Yeah, just close that American Standard and stay here. Not sure why that's okay. We're good?
Yeah, we've changed the highlighter from like solid to.
Okay. And you can pick any styles. I'm just trying to get you to get in the habit of how to mark these things, how to set your target reference window so that if you click on your results in your search window, you can move to that particular verse, highlight the word, and mark it. Once you have all of those marked, so the last one is in chapter 6, verse 18. Once you have them all marked, go ahead and close your search results window, and you'll notice that all of the occurrences of Adelphos are still marked, right? So now it's no longer dependent on that search results window being open. Now, I realize that for some of these it would be very tedious. For example, if Jesus is a key word in the Gospel of John and it occurs 244 times, to mark each one of them is going to be a lot. But if you really want to mark the keywords in your Bible so that you can see them when you come across them, it's no worse than using a yellow highlighter on a print one and saying, okay, I got to highlight every occurrence of the word Jesus. At least this is going to let you click a button and take you right to that word in that verse so you don't have to go find them all. Poor Denny, I keep teasing him about, back in the Dark Ages, he actually had to find all of those occurrences manually. What we just did with Adelphos, think about it, going through every chapter and every verse in Galatians would take time. I mean, you've got to find Adelphos in every occurrence and not miss one. Well, the computer just did that for you. Makes sense? Okay. So you can mark them with visual markup styles, or you can leave the search window open. For right now, for the rest of these, what I want to do is just leave the search windows open. Now we're going to collect a bunch of open windows. That's okay. But I want to show you that it changes the color. So go back to your vocab list. What's our next keyword that we want to search for? Okay, anthropos, a man. So right-click on it. Make sure that you're getting selected text. Not just that first copy, but you have to get to where it says selected text, copy. Is everybody with me? Manny, you with me? Search. Greek morphological Bible search. Paste into the form box. Select your Bible. ESV, reverse interlinear. The range is still going to be at Galatians because that's all we've been doing. Select Add to Search and click Search. It gets easier, doesn't it? You know, once you do this a few times, it gets to the point where you don't have to think about it. Yeah, Terry?
I was supposed to right-click on that word and hit copy, right?
No, selected text copy. Go to your vocab list, right-click on the word, and make sure that it says selected text, anthropos, copy. Do you see the difference? If you select this first copy in the pop-up menu, you're going to copy everything on that line. You're going to copy asterisk space anthropos parentheses 14 space amen. And when you go to paste it into that form box, it's going to paste all of that in there. Well, you don't want all of that. It's not going to find it anywhere. You just want adelphos, and that's why you have to say selected text copy. Okay? That's going to become even more important later on when we start to do some of these searches straight from the ESV or from a reverse interlinear. So it's good practice right now. So go ahead and go to your search, Greek morphological search. And you'll notice now that the highlight color is a different color. The first place it occurs is in Galatians 1:1. Click on it, and you should see them being highlighted, right? Now, without closing that search results window, let's just do another search. You should have a tabbed interface now here at the bottom, right? And you can get back to your vocabulary list just at the bottom of that window, right? Can everybody do that? Just right down here? Well, look at the bottom of this window where your search results are. Do you see where you can just click on the tab to get back to your vocabulary list? At the bottom of the window. At the bottom of the window.
He doesn't have the updated.
Okay, you still haven't done the Power Tools add-in? Todd?
I think I have.
Sometimes
Is it there, Manny?
expand it, like make it big, and then
You got the same size as the code.
yeah, if it's not the same size as one.
Right. If the two windows are not the same size, the tabs won't appear. But if you've done the tile vertically like I have, they're going to be the same size.
And he has
To
the
save all of those.
No, there's no saving. You can't save the search. There's nothing to save. You just have to leave the search results window open and then go back to your vocabulary list. If you can't get to it through the tabbed interface, go up to the window menu at the top and you'll see that your vocab list is going to be listed there at the bottom. So go up to get back to your vocabulary list. The next one we wanted to search for was ginomai. So repeat the process. Right-click on ginomai, selected text ginomai, copy. Go up under search, do a Greek morphological Bible search, paste it into the form box, select your ESV Bible, add to search to get your search term and click search. And now you'll notice your first occurrence is Galatians 2:17. But you haven't turned off anything else you've already selected for. Anything else you've searched for. So you just get to keep playing with highlighting these Greek terms. Okay? Is everybody with me? Roger, are you there? Are you where I am? You understand what we're doing? You're able to do this? Todd? You're with me, Manny? Everybody's got it. Okay. So, go back to your vocabulary list.
What are we doing? I could not resist.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we'll solve that problem. Okay. Go to your vocabulary. Danny, if you would run a vocabulary list on Galatians and open your ESV reverse interlinear so that they're side by side. Those are the only two windows we need open. Yeah.
When we went through this list, I'm just trying to save time in the long run.
bigger keywords.
I don't know. And it's just like our Bible. When we mark it, we can't just say, oh, man, it's not a keyword. We have to go back to each individual word. So I was just wondering if we should make that point now that
Yeah.
before we go through and mark all these
Right.
words, we should make sure we got our keywords down.
One of the things that Mike is explaining, I showed you how to mark them with the first word brother, because guess what? It is a keyword, so I didn't have a problem with you marking it. But one of the reasons I don't want to mark all of them as I do them, like anthropos, and then mark them all with visual markup styles, is because if I want to erase them, if I determine that anthropos really isn't significant, I have to go back to each individual occurrence and delete it. Just like, remember we talked about that, when you write in your Bible, it's just like writing with a pen. If you want to erase it, you have to go back to each occurrence and erase it. You can't just turn them all off. So now that we're doing these searches this way, it's marking it temporarily in your Bible so that you can explore these options. Okay? We're not writing in ink yet in our paper Bible. Does that make sense? Where it's just kind of in pencil, but it's in different colors of pencil so that we can see things. Okay, so let's go ahead and do Iesus, copy, and Denny, I'll come back there in just a second and help you get to where we are. Paste, select your Bible, ESV, add to search, do the search. The trick to this process is not closing these search results windows, okay? You want to leave them open. Control L to get to your library. And just open your ESV.
So after you get it, you're welcome.
Yeah, I did before and it covered it.
You're golden now? All right.
Okay, keep going through those keywords that we marked until you have all of them marked. Now, all of them marked just because you searched for them. You don't have to actually mark them with visual markup.
I'm not marking any of mine.
I only want them marked because you have an active search window open. You don't have to mark them with visual markup.
Yeah, you want it? Please. Oh, no. Please. Yeah. Okay. I was thinking big. Go. Big thing.
I'll show you.
Are you serious?
Highlight.
Oh. You would have.
No, just dark it. It will be right there if you want to orange it.
I didn't think it would either, because mine
Sorry if I want to go back there.
each sentence long.
It is weird that it jumps from scroll up to the top of the side. Resort this alphabet.
Just close my okay. This is working. Okay.
Now they're always at the top. Now we can search for find brothers.
I think it's 7. Harry.
Now, you can restart
Harry's
that.
trying to push my buttons.
Right click on the word itself.
Oh. Yeah.
You can't use this power where you want. You have to go to select.
Thank you, Harry. You know.
If you use this first option, you're going to have to.
Wait, this is what I put up with jokes like that the entire trip.
You got to use select text for this. That makes sense.
Or no, so what you already need, my bad. Get the two mixed up.
Harry, you're gonna get yourself in trouble. We're flexible.
I can tell how worried about it is.
I saw it.
You kids are grounded.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Get it.
My computer is getting really slow.
There it is.
I don't think so. Okay, I can do too, but you know, mine wasn't either long ago. It looked just like that. I don't know what the deal is. See, yeah, it stays highlighted. Mine's doing that right now too. I don't know why.
Now, if you don't close this search window,
You see my grade?
another
How do you know
search,
this?
it'll highlight the next word. That's kind of where we are. You're still about half a step behind me.
No, you don't.
I've met him
Only because we marked all the keywords.
Hey, Dave. I mean, Dave.
Dave, I have a lot more hair than Dave does, okay?
That's my plan.
Study over break.
Yeah.
Because you still got an asterisk. It's copying the asterisk too. And it shouldn't if you put the asterisks in. See, it's still got the asterisk. So the way to fix that is if it's got the asterisk in it, you have to delete it. So when you do your Greek morphological search and you paste,
Just go in and manually delete it?
yeah, you just use your arrow keys and make sure you delete out that words.
That's what mine said too.
Okay. Then select your Bible. Okay. It is possible, and this has happened to me a few times, and it's happening to Roger, it's happening to Whitney. If you right-click on the word, sometimes it copies the asterisk as well. If it does, when you paste it into your search, you have to go back and delete out that little asterisk at the beginning of the word, or it won't work. I mean, there is no word that's asterisk theos in your Greek text, so it won't find it. Okay? But every now and then, if you think you're doing everything right, but the search results are not working, look at that search term and make sure that you don't have that asterisk in there, because it shouldn't be in there. Okay? Now, I'm behind you guys. Have you all done a search for each of the keywords?
No, we just don't work.
Okay, I said do a search for each one of the keywords. It's important to get all of them. So continue to do your searching until you get used to doing this. The other thing is, by doing this over and over and over again, it becomes second nature on how to do this. And so I want you to get to the point where you don't have to think about these steps. You can just do it without thinking. So continue to search until you find all of the words that we marked as potential keywords. This is just like if we were studying at home for, getting ready to teach Galatians. We need to see where these words occur. I'm going to finish mine, and that'll give you a chance to catch up a little bit if you're behind. But it's important because I want to show you what you can now do once they're all marked, because these search windows are still open. Add to search, do search. Go back to your vocab list. Again, the key is do not close these search windows as you do this. You want to leave them open. You'll end up with a ton of windows open. That's okay. It won't slow down your computer too much. At least it shouldn't. It doesn't slow down yellow computers at all.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. Whoa.
Add to search, search. Okay, we're getting closer.
Okay, it's marked there.
Are we getting there? Have you guys have them all marked? Okay. Is everybody getting this? I am almost caught up with you. Now, one of the reasons why I chose Galatians is because of a somewhat unique situation in Galatians, but it's a very visual idea of how this works. I'm going to do one more, and I think it'll be enough for me to catch up with you and show you. First of all, what are we trying to do with keywords? Yep, but why? Because we want to. See, they learned a lot in exegesis class this morning, didn't they, Danny?
I feel better about how good I'm doing.
Yeah, it's a real confidence boost. Why do we want to mark keywords in a book?
Because they're important to make points.
The writer is using specific words over and over again to make the points that he's trying to make. If we can identify them, then we've got a clue as to how we can start to track down what the book is really about. Now, I've caught up with most of you. I've got most of mine marked. I want you to take your ESV back to chapter 1, verse 1. So go to Galatians 1:1. And please remember that you don't have to type Galatians 1:1. You can type GAL 1:1. There are a lot of fast ways to get to Galatians 1:1 if you're struggling with typing it all out. Now, you'll notice on mine, you can see mine on screen, you're starting to notice some keywords being highlighted, aren't you? Now, to make this even more helpful sometimes, you can, if you want, you can go up under your View menu, and you can select Interlinear under the View menu, and turn off everything but ESV text. Now you just have your English text, but all of the highlights are English or Greek words, Todd? No, it's
English.
no. Why are the words highlighted in your text?
Because I marked it.
But what did you mark them with? What did you look for? English words or Greek words?
English.
No. We did all of our searching on Greek, right?
Yes.
So now you're looking at an English text that is marked up because of the underlying Greek words. Start to use your arrow key and start to scroll through the text, and you're going to notice a number of passages that have individual keywords. Look at verse 16, chapter 2, verse 16. Now, we didn't mark them all, but look at how many are marked in chapter 2, verse 16. Now, since we didn't mark them all from looking at our vocabulary list, but there are that many in that verse Can anybody tell me any other keywords we might want to look at from that verse? Justified? Works? We got faith, but we probably need to look for the verb believe, right? So we could go back to our vocabulary list, add those to the list, and mark those as well. Now, right now, if we start closing windows, these things are going to disappear. So you have to ask yourself, if I want them permanently in my book, I have to use visual markup filters to keep them here. Because as soon as you start closing these search results windows, this is going to go away. But notice something just visually looking at the text. From chapter 1, verse 7 to chapter 1, verse 14, 15, you see almost no keywords. Then all of a sudden in verse 16, you're just hammered with, I mean, it's almost like the whole verse is highlighted, right? And then notice the occurrences of keywords from verse 17 on. They're everywhere. I mean, just keep scrolling through. They're all over the place. Now, what's your job as an exegete going to be, Mike? How are you going to deal with that? Yeah, I mean, start to go back and say, okay, there are no keywords before verse 16, at least in those few verses. Why not? Why are there no keywords in that section? Is it an illustration? Is it an extended explanation of some other point? And then starting at verse 16, he's starting to hammer keywords over and over and over and over again. What's he talking about? Where's he going? Why is he going? Do you see the power of being able to do that right from here? And if you wanted to, you could take each one of these, you could permanently, or at least temporarily permanently, use your highlighter and mark each one. And so anytime you opened your ESV text, all your keywords are marked. You can see the English, you can see the Greek because it's interlinear. You can know exactly what he's doing in the text. But do you see how verse 16 in chapter 2 jumps out at you just by scanning through it? Denny kind of showed us his Bible this morning and showed us, but now you just did in 35, 40 minutes, not even. What, Denny, how long would it have taken you, or how long did it take you? No, and I'm not picking on him. I really respect the amount of work he put into doing it. To find and highlight in your Greek text all of the keywords in a book like Galatians.
It probably days. If you want to put all of it together, it's probably days.
And we just did it all in 30 minutes. And I'll be honest with you guys, once you get used to this, I can do it in about 10. Just because I'm so used to doing the search and I don't have to think about the steps anymore. And that's why doing this recurring over and over again is so valuable. You'll get to the point where you don't have to worry about it. The important thing to remember is that when you do a search, the words are highlighted in your Greek text. And the cool part is that with each successive search, it changes the color. So you get this rainbow effect in your text where you can see all these different search terms that you've looked for. We haven't missed anything because we've searched not for the English words, but for the Greek words. So regardless of how they're translated, they're going to be marked correctly in our English text. Yeah, Mike?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there any keyword shortcut where I can scroll through my ESV text and keep multiple words highlighted and then hit visual markup and then just highlight it all at once?
No. That's going to be my next suggestion to Libronics is that once a search results window highlights something, having a button under other tools, for example, that would just say visual markup and you click it and it marks everything that was selected. The best way I can describe it is it's just like your paper Bible in that respect. You have to get your marker out and you have to go to each one and you have to highlight it. And when you want to erase it, you have to go to each one and erase it. Now, I wish it weren't that way, but it is right now. I have a feeling they're going to add more automated capabilities in the next version. But for right now, writing in your Bible is somewhat of a manual process. You can find the verses and the words that you want to mark automatically. You just have to do it individually. Yeah.
Since we've got logos now, when they come out with a new version, do we just download the update?
Yeah. the core software, the last time the core software was upgraded to 3.0, the upgrade was free. You paid $30 or so because it included the ESV reverse interlinears, so you actually bought the interlinears to go with it. But the system upgrade is free. Logos is really, really good about that kind of stuff. They, they make their money off of the books that you buy and the libraries you buy, not off selling you the core software. So when they make, and I've talked to a couple of guys and seen some things on the web, they're saying that the next version, if you think this version is a big leap from the previous version, and it is, the next one's going to blow us all away. They're doing a lot of really cool stuff. So, do you understand, before we take a break, and the bell's going to ring in just a second for a break, I want to make sure you understand two really important key concepts, actually three. One is how to highlight words within your vocab list so that they float to the top by editing the word itself. Now, you don't have to use an asterisk. If you want to use a number 1, or if you want to use a number sign, or whatever you use will work. I'm in the habit of using a little asterisk. And number 2, how to do a morphological search by copying from that vocab list into a Greek morphological search and seeing the words in your text. Yeah.
Okay, so I could also, if I wanted to change my target window to the New American Standard for my actual Bible, when I did the search results and it listed it out, and would it then show me?
No, because your NAS does not have Greek. You're searching for Greek terms, and your NAS doesn't have the Greek in it. So you can't, that's why the ESV is unique. Now, I do want to show you something, though, that's cool. When we started this whole thing, I had you mark your New American Standard as your default Bible, right? In any one of your search results windows, just roll over the verse in your search result window, and what pops up? Why?
That's your default.
It's showing you search results for your ESV, but if you want to read that exact same verse in the NAS, just hover over the reference and it's going to pop open your preferred Bible, which is your New American Standard. So that gets you a little bit closer to what you wanted, Brett, but it still doesn't let you highlight things in the NAS because it can't do a Greek morphological search within the NAS. Well, no, it's just the resources that are available. All right, let's take a break.
Hey, Mike, I call your attention next. They can shake on.
I don't think we've been recording.
Yeah.
It says pause recording. Just 1 second.
It says recording right there, Mike.
Yeah, but it's not showing up on the website unless I just lost my connection. Let's see. Yep, okay. Let me just pause. I did. I can't start it, but I can pause it and stop it and restart it. Yeah. Okay, so, I was saying during the break to some folks that I really wish that as freshmen you understood the real power of what we're talking about here. And I don't mean that insultingly at all. A lot of you are just learning Greek and you're just learning exegesis. And so, the cool thing is that we're going to have a whole generation of preacher students and preachers who know how to do this stuff instinctively. When you really start to think about what it took to do this manually, you're talking about days and days and days of work. And to top it off, it wasn't foolproof. If you're looking for every occurrence of the word adelphos in the book of Galatians, well, what are the odds that you missed one? Is it possible that you missed one? Sure. Denny has proven that sometimes when we've started playing with the software and he's compared his manual counts to the electronic counts. Now, in defense of Denny, there are also, I want to make sure that we understand that computers are not foolproof either, from the standpoint of they won't make mistakes. I mean, if you ask for every occurrence of the word huios, the word son, it's going to find every occurrence of that word. But it won't necessarily find every occurrence of a compound that is the same root as that word. You have to know to go look on your vocab list for that word. One of the ones that I'm used to doing now is the difference between pistis, which is the noun form of faith, and pisteo, which is the verb form of faith. They don't show up in the vocab list as the same word. They're two different words because one's a noun and one's a verb. So if I think pistis is a key word, I will automatically search that vocab list to see if pisteo is listed. If it is, I'll promote it as a keyword as well because I want it marked just like pistis is. Does that make sense? So some of that is you're going to have to develop a vocabulary for some of that kind of stuff. Questions, comments? Now, what we're about to do is get rid of all the work that we just did. But I want you to go ahead and do close all. It's easier than trying to close each one of those individual windows. Now, unfortunately, when you reopen your ESV, none of that stuff is highlighted, and all those searches you have to recreate to do them. But that's okay. We're going to do another one just to play. Yes?
Well, before you get off of that, what about those words, dios, ethne, and break, that like, they're translated the same word in the Greek text, but they're not in the English.
We're gonna deal with that, but we're gonna deal with it in a different book. I'm not gonna deal with those specific ones, but I'll show you other examples. Now, go ahead and reopen your ESV. So, Control L, open your ESV, reverse interlinear. And let's run a vocabulary list for James. Now, I'm not going to rerun one. I was talking, Brett mentioned this. He has had some time in class. Even if you don't have time in class, do it instead of playing Travian or something. That might be a good opportunity. But run vocabulary lists for all your books and then just have them saved. Then you don't have to rerun them anymore. All you have to do is open them. James. So run a vocabulary list on James. Once you run your vocabulary list on James, scroll down. It's probably about the 10th or 15th word. It's the word for work, ergon. And I want you to mark it with an asterisk like we did before so that we mark it as a keyword. And I want you to do a Greek morphological search for ergon within the ESV. So everything that we did, the same. Copy it, paste it into a Greek morphological search. Select your ESV by interlinear.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can get that as like the default for the search, the ESV?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Only save a second.
I know. Some things you just got to do manually.
That's
Oh, now I goofed. Now remember that you're searching James, not Galatians. I just searched for ergon in Galatians because that was where it was set before.
That's what I did.
I know. I do that all the time. You got to remember to change your search range. And then the bummer is that then you have to start the whole thing all over again. Add to search. Okay. And then change your ESV to James 1:1 so you can start to see some of these keywords being highlighted. Now, Brett just had an interesting question a minute ago, and in the one that we were looking at, it was flesh was the Greek word we searched for, but in the English it was translated anyone, I think was the amount that was the translation he got. So is that just a bug in the program, or what's the deal? The truth of the matter is that there are a lot of Greek words that are translated by different English words, and sometimes they can sound really strange. For example, who's got open your NAS. Don't change any of the windows, but do Control L and open your NAS 95 Update Bible. Just open your NAS. Yeah, just Control L to open the NAS. You know, to My Library, type in NAS, find your New American Standard, and open it. And go to James 1:4. Now this is where it's important to understand what we're doing with these keywords. And that we are looking at keywords based on what language, Whitney?
Greek.
It's really, really important that you grasp the concept that we are doing Greek searches. We're seeing the results in English, but we are searching for Greek words. The reason that that is important is, Larry, read in the New American Standard 95 Update, James 1:4.
And that endurance has its perfect result, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing.
That word result, guess what that word is? It's work. It's ergon. Let endurance have its perfect work. Now, they didn't translate it that way. They translated it result. But now if you can close your NAS now. I just wanted to show you that. But now, when you look at your search window, look at James 1:4. In the ESV, it says, let steadfastness have its full effect. That word is work. It's ergon. Now, if you were looking for all the occurrences of the word work in James, because work is a key word, you'd miss it, wouldn't you? I would never dream that effect, or in the NAS, result, is the word work. There's another one in James, too, with this same keyword. If you look down at chapter 1, verse 25. Todd, you had a question?
I was told the NAS is literally translated.
It is a literal translation.
How come not here?
Well, I mean, every translation has interesting difficulties, but the New American Standard, the New King James are not full-blown literal translations. They're still trying to communicate in an English form. Denny?
Literal means basically word for word. It doesn't mean that you translate the same word the same way every time. It just means that you're trying to find an English equivalent for literally every Greek word. So, does that make sense, Todd?
Yeah.
So you could take the word ergon and translate it 5 different ways, and it's still a very literal translation.
They've just made a choice to make a different translation of the word in a different context. James 1:25 is another one that I just discovered probably a month or so ago while I was teaching at Columbine. I was teaching James. And this one's another one that if you read it in the New American Standard is interesting. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, I'm reading from the ESV, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in what he does. In the New American Standard, it's not a forgetful hearer, but an effectual doer. Well, that word effectual is ergon. So, in essence, and even in the ESV here, it's not a great translation. So, not being a forgetful hearer, but a doer of work is what he's saying. I mean, you need to be a work doer, not someone who sees what he's supposed to do and forgets. Well, works is a very important keyword in the book of James, and you're going to see it everywhere in the English. But there's 2 examples of a keyword within the book of James that you would never notice from the English. Which brings us back to my original discussion, and that is, you have to work at those bridges between the English and the Greek. If you're not willing to do that work, if you want to just do searches on the English, you're going to miss a lot of material. You're going to miss a lot of nuances. And the fact that anyone in that one verse that you were looking at, Brett, is really the word flesh. They felt it necessary to translate it as anyone in that particular context, but it's the word flesh. Now, why did they make those choices? Denny, you want to enlighten us on that? I mean,
yeah, it's an editorial thing where we have to remember that the guys that made translations are in the business to sell Bibles. And they think that their Bible will be more appealing if it's got some variety. And so don't translate Ergon works every single time. That's mundane, that's boring. Figure out a new and exciting way of effects. Come up with something different. Well, these are not guys that are all that concerned about those of us that want to do exegetical work.
Now let me describe the danger. I was teaching through James chapter 1 at Columbine, and I was asked what an effectual doer means. I mean, what does that term effectual mean? And I immediately, luckily for my own credibility, said, I don't know that I've ever looked at the root of that word. I mean, in essence, what he's saying is you need to be a doer, not a person who hears and doesn't do. So, in general, that's the essence of the verse, but I haven't looked at that particular word. And a guy raised his hand and he said, well, just think about it. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Effectual means an effective doer. You need to do things that are effective. You need to do things that are practical and that work to the glory of God. So it's not just describing what's being done, it's how it's being done. You need to not be a forgetful hearer, but one who effectively works the good works for the Lord. Well, guess what? That sounds really good, but none of that has anything to do with what James is talking about. James is making a point based on a word that he's using over and over again to hammer his point. You have to work. You have to be a worker. You can't be someone who forgets. You need to be a doer of work. Faith without works is dead. I mean, he goes on and on. He just keeps hammering his point. And because they've translated effectual, you got a guy in the pew that's going to create this whole philosophy about what James is really saying. Because the word is effectual, well, that sounds like effective. Therefore, it's not just about doing the work. We have to be effective at what we do. No, wrong. So, unless you dig in to the Greek, and I told Denny I was worried about this at the beginning of class. I don't want to give you the impression that you have to eventually get to the point where you read your Greek New Testament and translate on the fly. But folks, if you're not dealing with the original language, you're missing some serious information in the New Testament. Now, does that mean that every member of the Lord's church has to know Greek in order to know what to do to get to heaven? No. I mean, you can read an English translation, you can understand what God wants you to do. But as stewards of God's Word, as men who are dedicated to spreading His Word and teaching His Word, folks, you're going to have to go deeper than just the NAS or the NIV or the New King James or whatever your translation happens to be. You have to dig for those little nuggets. And I'll be honest with you guys, it's exciting. It's fun. You learn so much about some of the nuances of what's going on that you really start to see connections to things that you never saw before. And you can't find it in the English translation. Close this search results window and run a vocab list on Philippians. Again, I'm going to just open mine because I have taken the time to run all of them. But run a vocabulary list on Philippians. Now, for those of you that were in exegesis class this morning, this will make sense. For those of you that weren't, there is a word that recurs throughout Philippians that is the basis of what Philippians is really all about. And it's clued in chapter 4 when he says, I urge Euodia and Syntyche to be of one mind, to agree, in other words. Well, that word, and once you run your vocab list, if you start to scan down for keywords, you'll find it has 10 occurrences. And I know, Denny, there's 11, but we're going to get to that. To have understanding, to think. Okay? And it's phroneo. It looks like a strange squiggle and then a row next to it, but it's phroneo. Pardon?
Which word are you talking about?
Phroneo, it has 10 occurrences, and the English gloss is to have understanding, to think. Does everybody see that in their Philippians vocab list? Do a morphological search in Philippians for phroneo. So, the same way we've been doing them all morning. Do the copy, search, Greek morphological Bible search, paste it into form, change to your NAS, or your ESV. Make sure you change your range to Philippians. Just type in Phil, works fine. Add to search, and do a search. Now, since we're looking at a search result window, and I'll give you another second or so to catch up with me, I want you to look at some of the other tools that are available in the upper right-hand corner of the search results window. One of them is align hits in context. Should be the third option down. So once you get the search results window up for phroneo, click align hits in context. Basically what it does is it lines up your word one on top of the other, so you can scan through the list easily and see how it's translated. But look in Philippians how this word phroneo is translated. Now, in chapter 1, verse 7, Brett, what does yours say?
It's right for me to feel this way.
Yeah, so, and what's bold? To. It should be to feel, but it's to. It's translated mind in 2:2 twice. It's translated mind in 2:5. It's translated think in 3:15. It's translated minds plural in 3:19. It's translated agree in 4:2. And it's translated concern in 4:10. Now tell me that you would find this pattern from your English text. You're not going to.
Well, and the footnotes don't tell you either.
No.
Sometimes they do, but more times than not, they don't.
Now, when you look at your vocabulary list as you're scanning for keywords, guess which one you're going to hit? You're going to find phroneo. And you're going to be able to do a search like we just did and start to see that pattern. Now, most of you already know it because you've had exegesis class, and Denny said it's a keyword, so you've marked it. But I want you to see how you could have found it, even if Denny never told you about it. But do you see how the translation, how the English becomes a barrier? Now, I feel since we're being recorded and people on the internet are going to watch, I think it's really important for us to say this does not mean that you cannot trust your English Bibles. We've had a couple of situations where we start talking about this kind of stuff and people will jump to the opposite extreme and say, well, see, what you're showing me is that we can't trust reading our English Bibles. Well, that's not true. These different translations for the word don't change the meaning of these verses. I mean, he's still saying the same thing. It's just it's harder to find patterns in the text from the English. Now, the opposite is also true. You may find patterns in the English that don't occur in the Greek. And we've already talked about that in the Gospel of John. In that whole dialogue between Jesus and Peter, where he's talking about, Jesus says, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, Lord, you know I love you. Well, there's a pattern, right? Jesus asks if Peter loves him. Peter responds, Lord, you know that I love you. That's easy. Until you realize that there's two different Greek words going on there. And that structure, that pattern, isn't what it first appears. It appears in English to be a very straightforward, although redundant and sometimes, repetitive dialogue. But there's really more going on there than would first thought. Do you see this? Do you see how this all works? Okay. I want to look. Go ahead and close this first. When we hit align text and contexts, it opened a new search window. Basically, all it's doing is filtering it. Just close that one window, and you'll be right back to your search result window that you were before. I want to look at some of these other tools that are in these search results windows since we're starting to talk about searches. We're going to do a lot more of searches when we get back from holiday break. I really thought that we would cover searches by Thursday. But I really thought today was important. I wanted you to see how these tools fit together to help you accomplish a specific purpose. And I thought it was a good time to do that, even though we jumped into some searches that we hadn't really talked about yet. Do you see from today how these tools can help you accomplish what Denny's been trying to teach you in exegesis class and what you need to be doing with the text? Okay. With the search result window open for phroneo, you'll notice that under other tools, you have export results to verse list. If you click on it, it creates a verse list. And we've looked at verse lists before. We looked at the fact that you could type them in individually. And remember that you can select under style. You can select references in 2 columns. My favorite happens to be references in 3 columns because I have a Greek text and an English text right next to each other. But now you have all of the occurrences of phroneo in a verse list, and you can save it. So when you go to close this verse list, you're going to see that dialog box that we've seen before, and that is name the document, leave the document unnamed, or delete the unnamed document. And you could actually say, same mind. And I would put Philippians. So I can come back to this list of passages and examine them more carefully. Say, okay, now I have that verse list saved. If you go up under File, Open, or go to the icon File, Open, and go to your verse list, you should now see in that list same mind, and you can open and always get back to those verses. So it's a great way to, once you've done a search, to save that search results in a way that you can re-examine them. The difference is that when you open that verse list, it doesn't highlight those words in the text of your Bible like it does when you do an active search. But you still have those verses. Okay, so that works very well. Now also, Graph Bible search results is the same that we found in that little exegetical guide when we had the little density chart. Only now it's going to show you, it's interesting because we only searched within one book. It would be better off to select something like number of hits in chapter, and it'll show you where the occurrences of phroneo occur the most. Now, really interesting, how many chapters are there in Philippians? Are you sure? Look at the distribution of occurrences of phroneo throughout the book. You got 1 in chapter 1, but then you got 3 in each chapter after that. That's a pretty even distribution, isn't it? It's a thread that runs throughout the book pretty consistently. Yeah, Denny?
That particular point, and that's a revelation, I haven't seen this until right now, would really be important in a book like Romans, because if you would do that with Romans, you would see how Paul moves from theme to theme to theme.
Yeah.
And like, he's got a high concentration of, say, spirit in 7, 8, and parts of 9. But other than that, you're basically not talking about the spirit at all.
Yeah.
You got a high concentration of law in chapter 7.
Yeah. Yeah, this ability to look at a book or a search result by chapter, especially when you're analyzing one book. You know, Denny's talked about think in terms of entire books. Okay, my pericope is in chapter 4. But how does this word occur throughout the whole rest of the book? Well, I can look at those individual verses, but if I run a chart like this, visually it shows me where the most concentration of uses are. Or is it evenly distributed throughout the entire book? Or does it only appear in one chapter? So you can start to see some patterns in how it's being used. And that becomes really powerful. Go ahead and close the graph search results, and you'll still be at your search window. That hasn't closed. We talked about align hits in context. That just lines up the words that are being found and being translated. Concordance is another one. Concordance is interesting because it breaks down the total number of uses by how it's being translated. Now, with phroneo, it looks pretty strange, truthfully, because it's translated so many different ways. But 1 out of 10 times, it occurs 10 times total. Once it's translated agree, once it's translated concern, once it's translated concerned, once it's translated mind, or 3 times it's translated mind, and so on. So it breaks down by the way it's translated in the English. Make sense? Okay. Now, close that window. Now, before we click on it, if I say search analysis by lemma, what would I expect it to tell me? Click on it. It breaks it down by how it's used, in what form. Now, one of the interesting things here, and I don't really understand why this lemma report does this, but if the word is associated with a particular definite article or conjunction, it'll list those as well. You notice that it lists autos in 4.2, and hina in 2.2, and ho in 3 different verses. So it breaks those out as well, so that it can give you the morphology, because the morphology is tied to those articles. But then it breaks it down as phroneo 10 times.
Yeah, that might sometimes be, you don't need it, but say you're studying law in Romans, where the definite article is very important.
Mm-hmm.
That would come in very handy in
Mm-hmm.
search.
Yeah, and that's another one that we'll do one of these afternoons. When we'll look at a word like law in Romans, and the fact that your NAS adds the definite article the in front of it, but it doesn't appear in the Greek. Well, that changes the meaning sometimes. And so you have to be able to know, is the definite article there or is it not? Okay, so close that window. And the only other, the last one is search analysis by Strong's number. It's going to look very similar. It's going to break each one down. You'll notice how it separates things out. The nice thing about the Strong's number is it gives you this little English gloss definition of the word, because it's just looking it up in Strong's. Questions about these search result windows? Again, we're going to spend a lot more time on these, but I wanted you to see the search results. And I wanted you to play with doing these morphological searches. Now, one of the things we didn't do when we did these morphological searches is we did not specify a particular form of the word, right? We didn't search for verbs. We just cut and pasted the Greek words into the search and let it show us what it was going to show us, which is great. We'll explore that morphological search in much more detail once we get to the search section. So, 2 hours ago, we started with the process that Denny mentioned. Learn to think in terms of complete books. We just looked at how to do that. Even though you would read it and do that kind of stuff, graphing your search results and looking at how the words are distributed throughout the entire book helps you do that. It's not just about pick up a commentary and read an introductory material about the book. When in exegesis class, when we're starting to talk about think in terms of entire books, we're not thinking, and Denny, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not talking in terms of, okay, who is Paul? Where was he when he wrote the book right initially? I mean, we're talking about thinking about the entire message. Now, the background information becomes important. You know, was Paul in jail in Rome when he wrote it? Is important material. But when we talk about thinking of books as an entirety, we're talking about what is the entire message that the inspired writer was giving. How does your pericope fit into that entire message? Not, you know, Paul was in Rome or he was on his first missionary journey when he wrote it. Does that make sense, guys? One is just background history on the book. The other deals with the message of the book. And you have to learn to look at the book as far as what was he trying to communicate to the church at Galatia? What was he trying to communicate to Philippians? Does it really matter where he was when he wrote it? When he was trying to tell the Philippians, he was trying to tell Euodia and Syntyche to get along, right? Now, could he have written that during the second missionary journey on a ship versus being in jail? Would it have would it have changed his message to Euodia and Syntyche? I don't think it would have. Would you agree with that, Denny? So, learn to separate the history of the book, where it came from and who wrote it, with the message of the book when you're thinking in terms of complete books. We learn to look at keywords, looking at vocab lists, searching for those vocab lists, seeing where they occur in the book so that we can identify key passages. We can find examples like Galatians 2:16 where you just have this dearth of keywords in one verse. Well, odds are there's a key verse for the book because of just the occurrences of keywords. What else did he talk about? I mean, what else do we do besides keyword searches or other kinds of keyword searches? What's another way to find keywords? Okay, prayers was one way. Prayers is a little bit more difficult to do electronically. It's more of a manual process because typically the inspired writer will say, "It is my prayer." Is that a noun or a verb? It's a noun. It's my prayer that such and such would happen, or that you would do such and such. In addition, he could say, "I am praying," noun or a verb? Verb. So you have to have different ways of searching. So I haven't come up with a great system for searching the prayer thing yet. I'm working on one, and we may get to it next class period. But I don't want to deal with it yet today. What was another word that came up that Denny talked about, or a type of word that he said was significant? Petition verbs. All right. Parakaleo, and I forget what the other one was. Iritao. All right. I'm not a Greek guy. How on earth am I going to find petition verbs in my ESV? Huh?
Going to your filters.
You could go to your filters. What would you filter for? Yeah, they don't. Yeah, it's not a part of speech. So a petition verb isn't going to show up in morphology because it's not a morphological form. It's a concept. So while that was good thinking, I have to hit the buzzer on that one and say, that one won't work. So, how else are we going to do this? I want to find where parakaleo appears. What am I going to do? What is a petition verb? Can you think of one, Todd? What? Okay, I plead. Let's see if that works. In the top of your icon bar, we're going to do another search. You'll see a magnifying glass that has little lines coming off it. It makes it look like the magnifying glass is flying really fast. It's actually called a Bible speed search. You can also get to it by going up to the search and selecting Bible speed search. But make sure it's the speed search, not a basic search. Now, Bible speed search, this is really pretty cool. It's designed to go fast, and it's designed to search for multiple words. So we looked at plead. So click plead. Just type in the word plead, and you'll notice that just that fast it finds the occurrences of the word plead. Now, am I searching? What am I searching for? What language am I searching, Larry? Okay. So I don't have any way. The one that looks the most like parakaleo to me would probably be 2 Corinthians 12:8, right? It's I pleaded with the Lord. That could be a petition verb, couldn't it? So click on it. Because your ESV is your target window, it should jump your ESV to 2 Corinthians 2:8 or 12:8, and make sure that you can view your interlinear. I'm just going to turn my Greek alignment, Greek lemma back on. And when I go to 2:8, I'm going to notice what is pleaded. What is the Greek word there for pleaded? Doug? You were doing a different search. You were playing in the corner. Levi, what's the Greek word for pleaded in 2 Corinthians 12:8? Yeah. Parakaleo. Yes.
I'm seeing several problems with the one I'm having. I have about 29 different versions of the word plead and pleaded, but I do not have 2 Corinthians. The last one I have is Romans 11:2.
Okay.
Plead, I'm in the New American.
Okay. Here, everybody pay attention. Hello. Hello. Everybody pay attention. Why do we have different results on different computers? Different versions of the Bible. Levi gets the gold star for the day. At the top, look at what Bible I'm searching with my speed search. I'm searching my ESV, New Testament, reverse interlinear. What are you searching, Brett? And anybody searching something else? Okay. When you search different ones, you're going to get different results. Why? Because they're different. Bottom line, they're not the same. I would love for everybody to say there's one Bible and it's the same everywhere. But when you start doing searches, especially when you do English-based searches, you have to be very conscious of what version you're searching. Now, please, Brett, change yours to the ESV, New Testament, reverse interlinear. And do you have 2 Corinthians 12:8? That's the difference. So, sometimes, change your version. Now, it's interesting that parakaleo isn't translated plead in the NAS. I was trying to think of a quick way to get to it. What is it in the NAS? In somebody open their NAS to 2 Corinthians 12:8. It's implored? Okay. So you would have had to do a quick search in the NAS for implored in order to find this.
Maybe you can help me out. I'm just struggling with why we left the Greek morphological search to go look for petition verbs.
Because we don't know what form they take.
Well, I was just saying, why didn't we just, okay, you got parakaleo in Philippians 4:2. Take the word, put it in your morphological search, change your search.
Morphological. You've been playing with your kids too much. Yeah. You've been playing with Noah.
Anyway. Put it in your morphological search and change your search range from one book to the entire New Testament, and then you have every occurrence of parakaleo in the New Testament.
You are correct. Here's why I left Philippians. And that is because unless you know that it occurs in Philippians 4, how are you going to find it? You happen to know that right there you had an occurrence of it that you could search from. But if you're starting off the top of your head and you're just trying to figure out where they are, Well, how are you going to find them? So I was just trying to show a way. I don't remember that in Philippians 4. And what verse in Philippians 4 is it? I can't remember. See, you already know where an occurrence is. So once you know where an occurrence is, you should be able to go just do a search from that occurrence. But if you don't know where to begin, this Bible speed search helps you do that. And as it happens, we found one because Todd said plead. We found 2 Corinthians 12:8. We go to 2 Corinthians 12:8, and we have parakaleo, and now we can do exactly what Mike just said. We can right-click on parakaleo, or the word pleaded in 2 Corinthians 12:8. We go to selected text, and now be very careful here. We want the lexical form of the word. So we go selected text, parakaleo lemma, right? And copy. And now we do it exactly like we did it before. Greek morphological search.
I like the Smurf.
Yeah, the smurfological search. I have a feeling that's going to stick too. You know, that's just one of those terms that just doesn't go away too fast. So paste it into the form box. Select your ESV, reverse interlinear. No. What I want now is I want you to change your range to New Testament. Now, since your range is New Testament, it's going to automatically type in Matt to Rev in the box next to it. Go ahead and click Add Search and do a search. Yes?
I missed a step somewhere. I went to parakaleo lemma, and it opened up that screen, but I don't...
Okay, do parakaleo lemma, and then do just copy it. From that screen, select the text, and then just copy. Then go up to the morphological search. And paste it in and do like we did before. Right now, I'm just trying to get you to do the same thing over and over again with these searches so that you get used to it.
Mike, he's got you cracked up. You got it.
Morphological search.
Yeah, that's going to go over real well, I have a feeling. How many occurrences? 105? Okay. Right. Thank you, Miles. Miles is actually paying attention to detail and notices that there are 109 occurrences in 105 verses. Now, what does that tell you? That somewhere there are two occurrences of the word in the same verse. You should already know one because Denny mentioned it this morning. Philippians 4:2, you have I entreat Euodia and I entreat Syntyche. Now the question becomes, where is the other one? Because Denny actually said it was the only place in the New Testament that it occurred twice. So I will give anybody 5 extra credit points that determines where it appears twice by going through these 109 verses. But there is another one where it appears twice somewhere. Now, how are you going to find it? A line hits in context.
2 Corinthians
6.
7:6.
I got it.
5 points. No, I started before you.
Now, Brett actually gets the credit, but because he has lost 80 points so far this quarter, he's still only 75 points behind.
2 Corinthians 1:4 occurs 3 times.
Does it really occur 3 times in 2
Punch for repeating answer.
10 extra points.
Okay, I need to clarify. It has to be paracolo. It can't be another form like in 2 Corinthians 7:6. You've got a participle. That doesn't count.
Now he's changing the rules on it. No, that is a good point. But it is also now I want you to understand what you guys just did. you guys just found 3 occurrences of a Greek word in the New Testament that Denny didn't think occurred, first of all, so that's a good jab at Denny, and he's right. For the petition verb, it has to be parakalo. But you guys just found Greek situations, unique constructions, and how many of you guys had ever even heard of the term parakaleo before today? 3 of you. How many of you had heard the term parakaleo before you came to school here? A couple of you. So, do you see how powerful that is? You guys aren't Greek scholars, and yet you just did some somewhat scholarly Greek searching. Is that neat or what? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that, to me, that's cool. Does anything get you guys excited besides Travian? I don't know. All right. The Travian guys. Manny, you're not into Travian too, are you? I was going to say. JR's high-fiving Manny, and I'm like, I don't think Manny's into the Travian.
Hey, you know what makes me excited? Getting out early for happy hour.
Yeah. That was a good reminder. Good try. Okay.
Oh.
So we've just done a search for parakaleo, and we can now find those places where I urge or I beseech and that kind of stuff occurs, and we can start to look for keywords in those phrases. So we talked about finding keywords from frequency. We talked about finding keywords from prayers, although I haven't shown you how to do it. How would you, now that you know how to find it from plead or urge, Levi, how would you go about finding where Paul talks about things that he does in prayer? Okay, we were trying to find where petition verbs might show up, and we just remembered what the petition verb was, right? So urge or plead or beseech, so you did a quick search for those things. If you wanted to find out where Paul talks about things he's praying about, what might you do?
When you go to view visual filters and search for Paul.
Okay, but I want to be more specific about that. What if it's Peter that's saying the prayer? Isn't that just as important for us to find? Or what if it's, someone else saying a prayer that Jesus said? Could there be keywords in there? What really is more important than the person doing the praying? Although Paul praying is pretty significant. It's just prayer, right? Just type in a quick search for the word prayer and see where it occurs. Now, you're going to get some false positives, and what I mean by that is you're going to get a lot of hits, but you can start to filter through it. If I just type in my quick search for prayer, well, I get 55 hits in 53 verses. That's not the greatest. I mean, that's a lot to chew through, but it's narrower than it was a minute ago. And now if I just scan through Paul's epistles, I immediately see one that jumps out at me is Ephesians 1:16. I do not cease to give thanks for you, remembering you in my prayers. Well, if I'm studying through Ephesians, that's probably where I'm going to start. What I want to show you is that Bible speed search, you can't narrow the range. When you type in a word, you're searching the entire New Testament. Okay? Now, one of the advantages of what we were doing before with keywords is that we were looking in a specific book, right? That's why I had you go to the morphological search, because we can specify, I just want to find the word in Galatians. I just want to find the word in Philippians. I don't really care if it occurs 57 times in Matthew. That's not the book I'm studying. So if I were looking in Ephesians, I would look at these two. I got Ephesians 1:16 and I got Ephesians 6:18. Well, I would look at those and see if I can find some keywords based on what he's praying for. Does it make sense? What, you just found something?
If everybody's got that screen open on prayer, you've got 2 in Philippians. You got Philippians 1:4 and Philippians 1:9.
and Philippians 1:19 and Philippians 4:6?
Well, but he said my prayer. Look
Right.
at what Paul is saying his prayer is, and then think about it in relation to what we talked about this morning.
Right. See, those are the words that you would look for. Now, since Bible Speed Search lets you search for multiple words, if you wanted to narrow this search and you didn't want to just type prayer, what might you do? Exactly what Denny just said. Type in my prayer. Now, what you just asked Logos to do is find every verse that has the word my and prayer in it. Not necessarily the phrase my prayer, but you'll notice, for example, in Luke 19:46 was a hit. Saying to them, it is written, my house shall be a house of prayer. The verse has my, and the verse has house, or prayer, in it. So it was a hit. Now, what you wanted was the phrase, my prayer. Right? So go up under your speed search and put my prayer in quotation marks. Now we're getting to something. With quotation marks, you're telling Libronic searches to find this group of words. So right now we just narrowed it down to Romans 1:10, Ephesians 1:16, Philippians 1:4, Philippians 1:9, 2 Timothy 1:3, and Philemon 4. That's cool. You need to start thinking in terms of searches as to how you can narrow your search to be more accurate. I really don't care for all of the verses that just say prayer. I want to know what Paul was praying for. Well, did he use the term my prayer? Or I am praying would be another way that you could try to search it. Now, you may not get any hits. I mean, at that point, you're making some guesses. And one of the things that I don't find very often is making guesses like that. Typically, you're looking at a pericope and you're seeing that phrase in that pericope. You want to just see if it appears anywhere else. So searching for it that way is more accurate. But there we just narrowed it down to exactly what Denny was just trying to point out to us. Philippians 1:4 and Philippians 1:9. Paul is saying, making my prayer with joy. And it is my prayer that your love. So you can start to break down those prayers and look for keywords. And they should be in that area. Nifty neato, huh? And without doing a morphological search. So that's neat. I guess it's a smurfological search.
Not a Greek scholar either.
Yeah, there you go. Now, see, I haven't said that. I said I would drop it. I'm going to drop it. At least for today. So, we've looked at how to do keywords. We've looked at how to find keywords for prayers. What I'm trying to do here is leverage what you're learning in another class and give you the tools to actually do it. And I hope you're seeing that. We've learned how to look at an entire book for keywords through a vocabulary list. We've looked at how to find maybe a prayer that you can specify. We've looked at how to find petition verbs and search for those. What else did he talk about? See, it left a lasting impression. It was just 3 hours ago.
We were thinking you was out because we weren't even in class.
I know. You should just know through osmosis.
This is going to be important to know because they're going to see it again very soon.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up. I think there was something about a quiz tomorrow, was there not? And it wouldn't surprise me if there was a quiz. What's next? Danny, what comes after looking at keywords?
You're talking about the 4 ways to find keywords?
Just steps in doing exegesis.
Put these keywords into action.
Put keywords into action. Study important words, right? So I've looked at some words. For example, we've looked at this parakaleo. Change your ESV to 2 Corinthians 12:8. We know that parakaleo is a petition verb. But I want to know more about parakaleo. I mean, really, right now, Perry, what do you know about the term parakaleo?
Well, it's one of those, what kind of word?
Petition verb?
Petition verbs where he's emphasizing a desire.
And how do you know all that?
In class.
Because Denny told you, right? I mean, let's face it. That's what we know about this word, is what we've been told in class. So, class dismissed. You now know everything you need to know about parakaleo. Right-click on parakaleo, pleat it in your ESV reverse interlinear. And I want you to notice that at the bottom of that pull-down, you now have pronounce. You have Bible word study parakaleo. Launch a Bible word study on parakaleo. And I told you we were going to spend most of today on Bible word studies. And guess what? We only have 15 minutes left and we haven't even started yet. So we're going to save a lot of this for Thursday. But what this is now doing is running a Bible word study from a Greek word. If you remember, how did we launch a Bible word study before, Terry? We did a Bible word study on the word love before. Do you remember how we did that? Homepage. We just typed the word love into the homepage where it said study word, and it launched a Bible word study. Well, now we're doing a word study on Greek, and the items in the list are going to be different than they were when we studied an English word. There's some of them are the same, but each section of this Bible word study will be very different. Key links is going to be similar. You're going to have this section called grammatical relationships, and we really don't have time to get into that today. But you have all these key links to get to this word, parakaleo. And so if I wanted to study parakaleo in, for example, in Art and Gingrich, since I have it, I can click on it. It's going to open Art and Gingrich. Danny, if you look at my screen, it might be a little hard to see. Oh, I just goofed. When I launched the search in Art and Gingrich for parakaleo, you'll notice right down here it highlighted 2 Corinthians 12:8. That's what I was talking about earlier. I have an active Bible reference filter on, so it shows me within the definition what passage I launched the study from. Can you see that color? And I showed them all how to turn that on a week or so ago. But so now I can study it from Art and Gingrich. If I want to go to Little Kittle, I can study it from the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament, abridged in one volume, and I can go through a complete word study on parakaleo, and I can start to understand what this word really is and what it means. Again, it's not just for petition verbs. If I'm in James and I realize that ergon is a key word in James, I need to understand the term ergon. And so I'm going to do word studies based on that. I'm going to run a Bible word study on ergon, and I'm going to look at these various areas. You'll notice at the top, you have the Greek word. You have this little speaker. You probably won't be able to hear it. So you can pronounce the Greek word? You've got a definition. You've got your key links, grammatical relationships we're going to skip right now. Notice translation. What is the little starburst translation telling you?
What are you asking, Mike, with the green and orange and all that?
Under translation in your Bible word study, what is this giant starburst telling you? How it's been translated throughout the New Testament. Now, this is really interesting. This is another example of why you need to learn to search for the Greek. Look at how many different ways parakaleo, or a form of parakaleo, is translated in English. you're not going to spot it from the English in patterns. Now, some of them you will. Urge, urged. We looked at pleaded, entreated. Those kinds of words sound the same, so we might think about it that way. But there are some others that might be hard for us to find. And so you've got tons of different words. When you click on a node, and a node is simply one of the words at the end of the starburst. For example, if you click on urge, it's going to show you each occurrence of where parakaleo is translated urge. So, of the 109 occurrences, parakaleo is translated urge 13 times, and these are the 13. Yes?
Is that going to be from the ESV?
Yes. And the way you know that is if you go up to the top of this translation section, it says ESV, New Testament, Reverse Interlinear. Now, why can it do this? Why can't we select the NAS 95 to do this, Brett? Because it doesn't have it. So, again, we get back to, I really don't care if you don't like the ESV. That's not the point. The point is that it right now is this bridge that we can use to get back and forth between English and Greek. We're searching for a Greek word here, but we're seeing English results. That's big. Click on any other node, encourage. It appears 6 times out of the 109 it's translated encourage. Ephesians 6:22, Colossians 4:8. Let's see, what's another one? Asked. I found asked is a little tiny word off to the side. It's only translated asked once, and that's in Acts 28:20. So you see how you can start to explore all the different translations of the word. Now, most words don't have this many nodes, to be quite honest with you. This is one of the larger ones I've seen. Most of them have 3 or 4 or 5 ways that they're translated into English. But this just reinforces my point that you've got the same Greek word occurring 109 times, and you're going to see it as, 30 different English words here? Isn't that crazy? I mean, you'd think as translators, you'd say, okay, it's parakaleo, I urge, or urged, or urging. But you wouldn't necessarily, it's translated apologized. Now, that's a form of the word. It's not the imperative form, but it is a form of the word, is translated apologize to them. Well, why not say so they came and urged them?
I don't know if you knew this, but if you click on the Greek word in the center of the star, it gives you it lists all of the words, in the order.
Yep.
And Mike, also when you click on those dots, it's kind of cool because it will list all the verses for the different forms.
Just under that node?
Just under that.
Yeah. See, I hadn't even seen one with these little dots before, so that's kind of neat that you can do that. But that's a good point. You need to just click on this stuff and see what it does. Experiment with these reports and click on things. Anytime you get the finger, you hover over something and it turns into a little finger. All right.
That was funnier than mine.
We know where you guys go, yeah.
Well, I already instead of on recording, because I want to get out early, go to happy hour. And I
Yeah.
said Sonic.
Yeah. Yes, it is being recorded that Whitney wanted to go to happy hour.
At Sonic.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to get too much further into these reports because we don't have time to cover them too dramatically. You'll notice you have Greek New Testament, and you can select which Greek text that appears in. You have Septuagint. Some of you may have works of Philo. Most of you, I don't think, have Apostolic Fathers, although that's an add-in that I've purchased. And so I can find every occurrence of parakaleo in the Apostolic Fathers by morphology, and it's right there. Denny, you might find that helpful since you do so much work in the early church fathers and the Apostolic Fathers with your Greek word studies. So again, what I wanted to show you for today about Bible word studies is that they're different when you generate them from a Greek word than when you generate them from an English word. You still have a density graph up here in the upper right-hand corner, just like you do in the English, but the rest of this report changes because you generate it from a Greek word. Now, you could generate it from the home page if you typed in the Greek word. But again, you have to type all of the accents and breathings correct in order for it to find the word. I don't like doing all that. It's a pain in the neck. So I find an occurrence in the text and copy and paste the word if I want, or just execute the Bible word study right from that particular verse. Does that make sense? It's just a lot easier than trying to type it out in Greek. Now, as time goes on, you're going to want to learn to type in Greek more and more. When you're writing a term paper and you want to include a Greek word, you might want to type it in Greek. But to do these searches and that kind of stuff, I find it much easier. Look at how quickly we were able to do all those searches today by cutting and pasting the word rather than trying to figure out how to type them. Questions and comments about what we've covered today? Okay, we're actually going to stop a little bit earlier just in case Whitney can get to happy hour, I guess. I don't know.
At Sonic.
At Sonic. But we will end for today and pick it up again on Thursday. I mentioned to you all that I was considering making the midterm a take-home deal. I still think that's probably what I'm going to do since the midterm is not really an examination. It's more of a project. But I don't think I'm going to send it home with you over the holidays. The reason is because I think you have plenty of other things to do for other classes. And we aren't going to get finished with everything before we get back. So rather than have you have to figure out things while you're doing other work, we're probably just going to wait until after the break to do the midterm. Okay? It will still be a take-home, but it'll probably give you a weekend to do it or a few days to do it rather than trying to do it over the holiday. Questions, comments? Okay, we're good.
Like those different libraries, Harvard or whatever.
The remote libraries?
Yeah.
It's under your file new. Remote library search.
Okay.